We're sitting here outside of Buckhannon, West Virginia. Sitting here with my father's neighbor, Pat. Pat's been here about a year. He's got a crazy cool backstory. I think he's got a lot of insight and a lot of wisdom to share. And, my hope is that, his frame of view and way of thinking will help somebody else out and just inspire another person to just, go out there and live a more peace-filled, more fulfilling life. Pat, what brought you out here, man? What first saw this area when you were like, yeah, this is it?
Well, the nitty gritty is I had been working in an area for 10 years, bought a house to, help my brothers out. And they moved out to apartments and I was left kind of with the house. So it was more house than I needed and I ended up selling it. And at the time, everywhere that I was looking, I was kind of priced out of the area. So, and unfortunately, through the years of paying mortgages, it only took 2 missed payments, and it was really more on the mortgage's fault because they kept returning our money. They basically tried to default me on the mortgage, and so when I was going to look for another house, I basically couldn't get a loan, and I went from apartment to townhome to buying a house, and I accumulated a lot of stuff over like 10 years, artwork and sentimental treasures from dear people to me, and I decided I got to find a place that's stable, and I looked around and I actually found a Facebook post, and here we are.
Hell yeah. Yeah, you do art, man. You do, would you say you're a professional tattoo artist?
I don't like the term professional, but I mean, I've been doing it long enough for someone to consider me a professional. I've entered competitions and, I've placed in the top ranks of competitions. I haven't yet to win an award for tattooing, but I'm striving for that. Yeah. And but I did win a first place award for painting in public in DC. Nice. So I am an award-winning artist. Oh, yeah. But when it comes to professionalism, I try to be as professional as I possibly can when it comes to keeping people safe and giving them a good product and a great experience. So, yeah, I mean, like, people can consider me a professional. I think calling myself a professional would be an honor.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah. You do that, that art, and your brain works on that other hemisphere. And a lot of people come out here and, somewhere like West Virginia, and they're like, man, there's not enough around, everything's too far away, or it's more smaller than like an international city like DC. And I think that turns a lot of people off. But if I'm hearing you correctly, you're feeling more content, more grounded here, where the prices on things are a little bit more down to earth, more reality.
Well, it was by chance that I ended up, here. I'm not going to say West Virginia was my first choice or my last choice. I do think, though, there's a lot of misconception just in everywhere. I mean, like, California, it's like there's a whole bunch of stuff going on with the governor and like money and taxes and everything's too expensive. Virginia, it's a commonwealth. Everywhere that you go, you're going to have some sort of issue. And when I think about West Virginia, I don't instantly go to what is everybody saying about it. I'm actually basing it on my own personal experience with the people that I interact with and my own life. Who do I meet on a daily basis? What is happening in the town that I can be a part of? And really, I think people are in a fabricated world online with the internet, basing everything off of what they hear on the internet and not actually living their life and exploring. And I've been blessed with being cursed of being a foster kid and in group homes and shipped around from home to home. And the reason why I say blessing and a curse is because one, it's a hard life to grow up and always meet new people, and it's really difficult to get grounded and set roots somewhere when you see everybody else have all these deep-seated connections with their friends and family and whatnot. And so you kind of just like live on the surface of everything. But that being said, if you're open to being vulnerable and giving things a shot, you know, you can explore and find your own families wherever you go. And that's the biggest important thing, is that no matter how nomadic you are, is that like you don't let like gossip or the grapevine like deter you from adventuring in a positive manner.
Ooh.
You know,
Yeah.
a lot of people like will talk about all the negative things of travel because they're scared to have something happen to them. But I think it's scarier to sit in one place and never do anything and just wither away than to actually like give yourself a chance to be alive and in the moment. You know, you really want to be living 5 years from now thinking about when you're going to retire, or you want to live like, oh, I shouldn't have done this yesterday and I screwed up or whatever. It's like there's always a chance to forgive yourself and forgive others, and there's always a chance to just move on and start something new, wipe the slate clean, give yourself a chance, you know? And so when it comes back to West Virginia, I just see beautiful people. I see trees and nature, and yeah, I see the bad sides of things too, and I could label all those, but those get way too much attention.
That's true. That is very true. I love that perspective, man. You just find your own inner peace, and then it radiates around you. You know, I like how, you know, and then, you know, when I was younger, I always looked for the big cities. I'm like, where's the action? Where's the art? Where's the fucking music? You know, who am I gonna find there? What kind of culture am I gonna run into? And I was addicted to it. I was still searching for myself. And as I got a little bit older, I'm like, oh, I found myself. And you can, as an adult, I really feel more comfortable in the skin I'm in, no matter where I'm at.
Well, here's an interesting perspective on that. Cities are meant to capture your attention. Think about that. You have billboards and restaurants, and everything's trying to sell you something. Everything's trying to catch your attention so they can make a buck, and it's to entertain you. And there's nothing wrong with a city. The city is basically the artistic expression of human entertainment and you know, the arts and Renaissance and all that stuff. It's also innovation and creation. At the same point in time, besides it being a melting pot, it really takes, you know, a honed mind and soul to go out into nature and look at the primitive things of life and actually appreciate it for its real value. Not just go, hey, I'm going to go to a national park and I'm going to go hiking. It's like, when's the last time you actually learned, like, you know, how plants grow, or you know, what type of wildlife is native to you, or the native plants that are in your area that some are poisonous, some aren't, like, but they're meant to be there to like hone a balance to, you know, its environment. And so, yeah, you're going to have cities, you know, drawing people in. But at the end of the day, I mean, you have, you know, you have these experiments where scientists will take people into the woods, and, you know, they'll walk around and, you know, they'll get better oxygenated blood because they're around, you know, so much photosynthesis and trees, like, you know, doing their thing. But you take the same amount of people and you have them in the city, and, you know, it's almost like, you know, like a Tupperware of life, where it's like you can either trap stuff in or it traps stuff from from getting out. You know, does it stimulate the mind, and is it a dopamine fix? Absolutely. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. But I think people living in cities is probably where we go wrong because of convenience. And if people like lived more in rural areas and used cities as places of meeting and commerce, then we'd use them as gathering places. And we wouldn't have this demographic of people that live in a city that are so out of touch with nature.
Damn, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That brings us back to kind of like sitting in the stillness, being present in every single moment. Do you have any daily practices that you find help you, or you might feel like have helped the younger you?
So I'm still healing the younger me. I'm going to be honest. When it comes to friendships, when it comes to family and stuff like that, I feel very disconnected. But what I do on a daily basis is pretty much, you know, this is going to sound silly and very simple, but I really like making my bed like without like getting up, and I like making my bed before I get away from it. And the reason why is not because I like the chore of doing it, but when I come back after whatever I've done all day and my bed's already made, I forget that I make it, and it's almost like there's someone taking care of me. And I don't even realize that it's me.
Right. Damn.
And so it's kind of like when I come home and like I haven't made my bed, I haven't done the dishes, I haven't cleaned my house and actually like looked at my house as something that I love, my space.
Right.
Like I realized that it's not the space that's the problem. It's the fact that I'm not loving myself enough to treat myself with high status and high quality.
Dude, I love that.
It's a very simple practice. It's not saying, hey, be obsessive or overbearing on cleanliness or whatever.
Right.
It's just more along the lines of like, you know, maybe pick up the stuff that you always tripping over. It's the things that you notice that bring you distress. And if you can look at those not as a problem or as like a judgment on yourself, but if you can look at those as kind of like an itinerary for the day. Oh, I got to do this because it needs to be done. And then you forget about it. When you come back to it, you're like, wow, someone cleaned my house. Somebody loves me, you know?
Awesome.
And
that's so cool.
Yeah. So I guess it's the self-motivating, you know, for doing chores. It's not
Would the
silly.
younger you have done that for himself? When did you start feeling that was like something that was productive for you?
The younger me never had a space. I never had a room. I was always living on someone's couch. You know, people were always telling me that I was like kind of overstaying my welcome, but like sugarcoating it. So they were being nice to me, but I knew that they didn't want me there.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, I felt lost and I felt like I didn't belong. And funny enough, now that I have a house to myself, I remember all the houses that I would go into where people were upset and dysfunction happened and they would yell, and like there was a lot of trauma that I experienced from other people. And I realized that all those people had one thing in common, is that they did not keep a clean house. And you know, this also goes with working on tools, like working in a workshop or making artwork or whatnot. There's no problem with making a mess.
Right.
If you make a mess, you're doing something, you know?
True.
And technically, in order to clean a place, in my eyes, you have to make your mess and sort out what's in the mess and if it needs to be there.
Right.
And
I love that.
That's kind of like a step in the process for me to get things clean, is I have to see what is in the environment and be like, oh, well, this doesn't belong there. It's like, you're not going to park a school bus in your swimming pool. You know what I mean? Like, so just pick out the obvious stuff. And then after you're done with all the obvious stuff, then you can like critique where things are to see if it suits your functionality as a person. I mean, if I have tools laying all over the garage, you know, 9 times out of 10, instead of fixing something, I'm going to be spending like 2 hours looking for the tool to fix it. And then when I finally find it, the frustrations of the problem actually are overbearing.
It's a good way to look at everything in life, right? I mean, especially with the way, you know, our world seems to be in now. We've got, you know, so much going on with the climate, so much going on with politics, geopolitics around the world, you know, nationalism. You know, we're still dealing with poverty in 2026. Unfortunately, we still have slavery. right?
Yeah,
Like there's
yeah,
all
the
these
prison
geopolitical
system.
problems that are around the world, and and people ask me, they come to me and they say, hey, this and that, and I hear them complaining about it, and yeah, that's a great way for them to be venting as well. But we're talking about looking at things from the positive side, right? And really honing in on what our gift is to make the world just that much better, right? And it doesn't have to be, we don't have to take it upon our shoulders to change everything.
No.
But the things around us that we can change, the little ways we greet one another in society, and the attitudes we carry towards these monumental problems we have around the world.
You realize this has a complete and total parallel to what I was just talking about with cleaning your room. So let's take everybody that's online looking at life, right? If you look at it the same way as I described when I'm cleaning my room, okay, yeah, you see all the climate problems, you see all the political problems, you see all the division, and you see the war and people dying. Those are all things, if like in a metaphor, those are the clothes on the floor, those are the tools that aren't put in the toolbox, those are the pieces of trash that aren't in the trash can, or the food that is rotting. Those are the things that are laying around. And if society can stop just looking at it and saying, hey, this is a messy room, then maybe we could look at the stuff that doesn't belong there, like war and poverty and disease and all these things, like, the greed and the selfishness and like the overabundance that some people have and then they do nothing with it. It might not be all on their fault. Like, they didn't get raised in a struggle. Like, maybe they're not like tuned to be resourceful, and it's not just them. It's also the fact that the people that don't have anything, are just pointing a finger of blame instead of offering their ideas on how to fix something. You know what I mean? And here we go with the he said, she said, or the semantics of things or whatnot. You could always say, oh, well, you have the answers, why didn't you do it? Or that person has enough and like they're not doing anything with it.
Yeah.
I mean, we only have one life, and some people die really quick and some people live forever. And like, well, not forever, but like, you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's the fact that some of those people that have lived through everything, the reason why they've made it through there is because they've taken all their problems from the whole world and they've focused on what they could change. They focused on what they could do. And they lived through all sorts of stuff, and you're like, how did you make it through it? And in reality it's not about getting to the finish line. It's about just the next step that you take.
Damn.
Yeah.
It is that simple.
I mean, we're not gonna solve world hunger by yelling at Elon Musk. You know what I mean?
As fun as it is.
I mean, like, yeah, like if the guy has a lot of money, the guy has a lot of money. But like, it's like, if anything, maybe offer and say, hey, Bill Gates and Elon Musk, why don't you guys work with the Amish to actually make good food that's not poisoning us? Why don't we look into all the corporations that are like having all these byproducts that are toxic and they're trying to like throw them into the rivers and, get rid of them the cheap? And why don't we use our brains and intelligence to like, say, oh, well, we can use this as a resource here. It's a whole bunch of stuff laying around, and in one situation it could be poisonous and detrimental to the environment. In another, it could preserve something, or the way that we get rid of it could be through resourcefulness instead of like some sort of like domino effect to being like, okay, well, this is my problem, so I'm going to pass it on to the next.
Yeah.
So it's like,
yeah,
you have people out there trying to find answers to it, but the reality to it is those people that are closer to the answers need to take those to the people that have the problems, and the people that have the problems need to start listening.
Yeah. No, and
instead of being like, okay, well, what can I do to save a penny? Because
Right.
at some point in time, like pennies are going to have to be the fuel. You know what I mean? Like all tangible stuff in life will end up being some sort of resource.
True.
I
That's true.
like the other day I went into CJ Maggie's restaurant downtown Buckhannon, and they have great food. Shout out to them, because I had an awesome burger there. But at the same point in time, they got a whole bunch of collectible antiques and all these things. And their front desk is, or their front hostess desk is made out of old yardsticks. And I was like, it's stuff like that. When you see that,
Yeah.
it's like, there's not somebody with a billion yardsticks out there, but the people that are out there, when they're resourceful and they turn it into something else,
Yep.
I mean, you could just hand those out to carpenters and they could use them. But the thing is, it doesn't matter if it's not intended for its original purpose. It's the fact if you give it purpose.
Oh man, we're touching on that artistic side of your brain, dude. I'm curious. I want to see more. I don't see the world like this at all. I see it in more communication. And my frame of view is most people are insecure and they feel this deep shame in talking with one another, and just seeing somebody in a grocery store that's having a bad day and just smiling at them or asking hello. In my mind that's brightening up their day. But you're actually seeing the whole other side of it where you can see this artistic world, and how if we're all coming together, we're getting that same result of brightening somebody's day.
I think, you touched on a subject there that I think a lot of people don't understand, that I'd like to add some or offer some advice. People in public are like wild animals. Okay? Not in the negative sense. Don't think of it that way. Just think of it in terms of everybody's on guard. So what I've noticed, because I don't like conflict and I really like meeting people and I do not like making people feel uncomfortable. I really want to get to know people, and I also want to protect myself.
Sure.
So I'm not like out there trying to just say hi to everyone,
Right. Okay, yeah.
I'm not trying to get stabbed but you know what I mean? Because it could happen. You got to take that into consideration. But people are in the wild, and they're wild, themselves. And I think the best way to communicate with people in public is to do your thing. And when people notice you or you notice people, appreciate that you're being noticed. Like, whether it's a smile or a wave, or acknowledge them. I see you. But you don't have to make it a big conversation. You could even just nod your head or whatever. Yeah. The worst thing you can do is walk by somebody and completely pretend like they're invisible. And the reason why I say that is I'm not telling people to go out of their way to just say hi to people.
Right.
I'm just telling you, everything in life is a shared space. You see, like, wild animals go to a watering hole and they're not all tearing themselves apart. They could.
Right.
Right?
That's true.
But if you want to approach people or like have people approach you in any way, shape, or form, the best thing to do is acknowledge them and let them do their thing. If they want to be interactive, if they're inquisitive, if you pick up on their body language that they want to interact with you, then, don't be scared and just like be yourself. Because the worst thing that could happen is you have a nice hello, goodbye,
That's kind of like the collective consciousness. We're learning through modern science that everything's the shared energy field, and that the thoughts we're having in our head and our heart, they actually make a measurable difference on the people and the environment around us.
What happens when you run up to a dog or a cat really aggressively, yelling at it or whatnot? You're gonna scare it,
Yeah, true.
And 9 times out of 10, if it's scared enough, but it doesn't back down because it's got a soul and its own, mind, it might attack you.
Yeah.
So it's like, you gotta think, it's like, you gotta live life gracefully. If you don't find a sense of grace, I mean, you can be awkward and silly and whatnot. Maybe that's just your charisma and your vibe. But the thing is, it's like, nobody wants to be forced to do anything. That's why it's like everybody has a problem with being monitored and stuff like that. It's not that we're doing bad things or we're out there to like get away with stuff.
Right.
It's the fact that it's like it shows no sign of trust. And in order for people to do the right thing, they can't be judged right off the bat.
Right.
You know, because 9 times out of 10, you'll have somebody that says, oh, well, you think I'm this way, so I might as well just be it.
Oof. That's touching on the emotional side of the human.
Yeah.
Now,
It's frustrating being judged like that without having any reference to your background. You don't know what people have gone through. I mean, they could be suffering in the moment. They could have lost someone that they loved. Yep. They could be trying to figure out how to pinch a penny because, you know, they're about to lose everything.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I get
or they could have just won the lotto and been in a vulnerable state of happiness and like get taken advantage of, or
that's true too.
Or be told the wrong advice and like take action on it.
Well, we know that holding a positive intention for them in our hearts, you know, regardless of the kind of emotion we might feel triggered by that they're projecting or we think they're projecting at the moment. This is the solution to global peace, right? It's just loving one another and trying to picture this world as a beautiful oasis that it could be and it should be. And you know, that's my personal dream. I'm striving towards, you know, kind of bridging that gap, kind of narrowing those awkward feelings of people interacting with each other and not afraid to communicate.
Yeah.
And you know, about that global consciousness, that collective consciousness, right? We're seeing this measurable energy we have in our brain, and we can go back to Einstein and energy is neither created nor destroyed. If we're thinking positive thoughts about another human being, we're literally projecting that onto them.
Well, okay. So yesterday you asked me, you know, what needs to happen in order for global peace to exist. You know, and my response was, people need to believe it can happen. Right. You know, they need to believe it's possible. Well, this is the message for everybody, for everyone. You believe that we're going to have AI karate robots and that we're going to fly to Mars and that aliens are real and that lizard people are real.
Right.
And that, you know, there's secret societies like the Illuminati. You believe that, like, you know, Yellowstone is, you know, as catastrophic as it's going to be. You believe that, like, we actually can measure accurately how far away the sun is when we can't even get signal from Verizon telephones here. You know, I have like 0 bars, and I'm like, wait, so you're telling me we can you know, measure things accurately? There's always room for error. Now, I'm not saying that we're not capable of doing that, because we are. We've proved it. But why is it that humanity can look at all these things and be like, there's no possible way that we're the only intelligent life in the universe? You know, there has to be something out there. But they can't go, oh, well, we're not that ignorant. We're not that you know, regressed and primitive of a species that we couldn't. I mean, the animals at the watering hole have peace.
Yeah.
Okay? And they eat each other to survive. We have the ability to think different and be like, yo, we can be the protectors of those animals from each other so they don't have to eat each other. We could be the protectors of ourselves so we don't get into cannibalism and like all sorts of crazy, you know, terrible, like negative parts of life, you know? Like, we could look at life as if we have a better statistical chance of world peace. We could just start with that. We could say, hey, if we can get to Mars, or if we can shoot a rocket out of the, you know, the Earth's atmosphere through the Van Nuys belts, like, we have more of a chance of world peace than we do of nuclear war and death.
I love it.
Like, why can't we just say that? Like, yes, we have conflict, but I mean, like, you have conflict at every, like, you know, ocean boardwalk, New Jersey shore, whatever. It's like, you know, it lives with conflict. Like, why can't we live with conflict, but also realize it's not the main picture? There are people getting rich off of war. Why can't we stop letting them win? You know what I mean? Like, it's just the same as checkers. We are on one side and there is another side to it. If you want to play into the side that is always winning because you want the best bet, then yeah, you won't be disappointed. But if you really want the underdog to win, then you got to believe that the underdog has a chance.
Dude, I love that. Pat, dude, thank you for talking with me.
Yeah, man.